Hey, I'm Chris from Make Everything, and today I'm going to give you 5 easy tips on how to buy machinery and tools from online auctions. Check it out. Alright, so if you follow me on Instagram, you already know that I buy a lot of the equipment I have in my shop at online auctions. I got into it a couple of years ago, actually through Craigslist. I was looking for a machine, and it turned out it was for sale at an auction, and I sort of just rolled the dice on it. Fast forward now, I've bought, probably 30 or 40 different auction lots over the course of the last 2 years, and I've learned a lot along the way. Online auctions can be very intimidating for someone with a small shop like mine or someone just starting out. They're very common for people in the machine and wood shop industry, but getting into them as somebody with no idea can really be nerve-wracking. So I want to break away some of that apprehension and explain some of the things that I've learned along the way that has made it something that I look forward to every month, buying from auctions and getting great deals on equipment. All right, so the first tip that I want to give is to read the fine print. Every auction has different details. You're going to find a auction house through an online source. I'm going to put a couple of links to the auction houses that I use down below. One of them, for example, is something called BidSpotter. Now, obviously, I have no affiliation with BidSpotter, but I do find a lot of auctions through their website. Now, every auction is different. The auctions are run by auction houses or sometimes the individual owner of the shop themselves, and the terms can vary wildly. Some of them require a deposit, most of them don't, but there are very, very specific terms in there that you have to be aware of in terms of how long you have to pick up your equipment, how the bidding works, how payment works. Sometimes they take credit cards, a lot of times they don't. So you have to be able to spend the money in cash for whatever you buy. And a lot of them require a bank account to send a wire transfer to pay for your equipment. So make sure you read the fine print. It's not something to fool around with, because at the end of the day, if you bid on something and you win it, you are obligated to pay. If you don't know the terms, it's very, very difficult to get out of the obligation that you have made by signing up for the auction. And a lot of these places, it's kind of like a one strike you're out thing, where if you purchase something and can't pay, they won't really let you bid again. So I'm not trying to make it sound intimidating. Just read through the fine print. It's never that long. It's usually one page, and understand what's going on. And part of that is ask questions. Everybody started somewhere, so you're never going to call these places and have them not want to answer your questions. At the end of the day, you spending money puts money in their pocket. So if they can answer questions for you and help you spend your money, it's beneficial to them. So if you have a question or something in the terms doesn't really make sense, just call and speak to somebody and have them clarify for you. All of this is in an effort to make sure that the money you spend goes in the right direction and you don't get ripped off or don't wind up doing something or signing up for something that you're not sure of. Something else to note about the fine print is understanding what's called the buyer's premium. Now, when you buy something, every auction is going to have a buyer's premium. It varies. Sometimes it's as low as 12%, but I've seen it as high as 19%. What that means is if you buy something like this buffer for $100, and that's your maximum bid, and the hammer comes down and boom, you win it, $100. You now have to pay the buyer's premium on top of that $100. So if it's 15%, this buffer now costs you $115. Now, if this buffer was $1,000, that 15% would be $150, and so on and so forth. Always, always understand that what you are paying for comes with a buyer's premium. As you're bidding up on things, you're going to reach a budget that you're not going to want to spend any more than. Let's say it's $300. All right, so it's $300, but don't forget the buyer's premium is on there too. So it's not really $300 if that's your top bid. It's $300 plus the buyer's premium, and then there is also state tax if it's applicable in your state. So just keep that in mind. Buyer's premium can add up, and if you're buying multiple things, sometimes you can wind up spending almost as much on your buyer's premium as you do on your items, but hopefully you get the item cheap enough that the buyer's premium is not too much of a speed bump to become a roadblock. My next tip is going to be research the equipment. Now, when you're looking at auction lots, a lot of times the person that is taking the photographs and listing the machinery online doesn't necessarily know anything about the equipment. Always assume that the person taking the photos and writing the information just saw this piece of equipment for the first time. And once you kind of have that in your head, it'll make a little more sense why sometimes, the listings will have incorrect information, or, the whole thing will just be totally marked wrong. I see it a lot when it comes to like bandsaws and mills. Any mill that looks like this is listed as a Bridgeport, even if it's not necessarily a Bridgeport, because a lot of times the people that are writing these listings don't necessarily know. But a lot of times you're going to see this a lot on machines. The lister will take a picture of either the serial number plate or the model number plate, and that's what you need to go off of. So do as much research on what you're looking to bid on as possible. Obviously, if it's a bunch of tools or drills, there's not really much research you can do. But any equipment, anything that requires power, you want to do extensive research on. There is no reason to rush into purchasing something that you're unsure of, because like I touched on before, once you bid and you are the winner of something, you are obligated to pay for it and remove it. So let's say you're bidding on a mill or a bandsaw or a lathe, and you don't realize that it's three-phase, and you don't have three-phase power in your shop. There's nothing that you can do about that. You're gonna need to pay for the equipment and remove it from the auction house. So just be aware. Also, something that's worth noting is that you can usually utilize the serial numbers that they provide you on these plates and get more information about the equipment from the manufacturers. The SawStop table saw that I use in almost all my woodworking videos, I purchased at an auction. And before I purchased it, they had the serial number listed on the auction. So I emailed SawStop and I asked them if they could give me any information about that serial number saw. And they actually responded and told me that the saw had had no warranty claims and no claims on it at all. And as far as they knew, the saw was in, as they described it, a clean bill of health. I got the saw and it works perfect. But, all that research allowed me to confidently bid on it and know that the money that I was going to spend was worthwhile. So the third thing is going to be preparing for the pickup or delivery of whatever you buy at an auction. Now, like I said in the beginning, every auction is different. And when you read through those terms, one of the things that's going to stand out to you is the insurance required for pickup. Almost every auction that I've ever bought at wants you to be insured for at least $1 million to pick up equipment. Now, that being said, every auction that I've ever purchased from, I have called them and said, hey, can I come and pick up my own stuff? And every single time they have said yes. They've never asked me about insurance, and I have never had a problem. If you go back on my channel and you watch the video of moving the 1,000-pound bandsaw, that was bought from an auction house. But before I went, I always call and say, hey, I'm coming with my truck and a friend and like a hand truck to move my own equipment. Is that okay? Talk to someone that's actually on the auction premises. You can ask all these questions and you will always be able to get that information. The last thing you want to do is rent a trailer or hire somebody to help and go to pick up equipment and have them be like, whoa, 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 you don't have insurance. You can't move this stuff. You have to pay a rigger. That being said, know your limits. Do not take a risk to save money when you're moving heavy equipment like anything back here, or pretty much anything that you can't carry confidently by yourself. Really consider hiring a professional. And that is the other thing. Almost every auction is going to have a rigging company that is preferred to do the moving. Now, when I talk about riggers, a lot of times you can swap that word out for the phrase machinery movers. So auction houses make deals with machinery movers to have them be the first right to refusal at the end of an auction. They are usually on site, putting out business cards or giving information. And if the auction is local to you, a lot of times they're bringing other stuff out, and maybe they're bringing something near your house or near your shop, and you can get a better rate. So definitely think about paying someone to move your equipment, but be prepared to either move it yourself and ask a lot of questions, or if it's heavy and it's dangerous, please spend a little bit of money and pay someone to move it. Also, most of the time, riggers will not only pick the equipment up for you, but they will also drop it off and put it in place if you make that arrangement in advance. And if the auction is far away, you can usually get the riggers to take the equipment without you ever actually having to go and see it. A lot of people buy from auctions all over the country and have their equipment shipped. So it's not unheard of. But again, ask questions and communicate with the sellers and make sure you understand exactly what you're getting yourself into. All right, number 4 is a little more of a positive note and a little less scary. Ask for unsold lots. Now, every auction I've ever been to has a certain amount of items that just weren't bid on at all. Now, when you're buying from an auction, there's always a starting bid price. And it really depends on the equipment, but a lot of times it's like $5, $10. If it's something big, it's maybe $100 or $200. In my experience, at the end of the auctions, whatever has not been sold usually gets sold as a buy it now for the starting bid price. So there have been times where I have gotten incredible deals on equipment because nobody bid on it, and then at the end of the auction, I get it for starting bid price. A couple of years ago, I bought a Bridgeport clone. It was a Milmax with a DRO, a beautiful machine for $125 because nobody else bid on it. Some auction companies will automatically send out an unsold lot list. Other times you have to ask for it, but you don't necessarily have to bid in the auction to have access to the unsold lot list. So if you see an auction that ends, on a Tuesday, at the end of the day on Tuesday, you can send a quick email or a phone call to the auctioneer and say, hey, if there are any unsold lots, I would really like to see the list. And when a shop is being put up for auction, it typically means it needs to be empty fast. So they are in their best interest to give anyone they can access to clearing the stuff out of the facility. You have to understand that anything that's in the facility that is not sold, they typically have to pay someone to remove. So they would much rather take your money and let you take it yourself than pay someone to remove it and empty out the building. So always, always ask for unsold lots. You can get some incredible deals like this. All right, and my last tip number 5 is understand that buying from auctions is a risk. You are buying equipment sight unseen and you do not know if it works. And I have never come across an auction that will guarantee something works. A lot of times there is what's called a preview. So that it will usually be the day before the auction and they allow people to go to the shop and actually physically see the stuff. That being said, do not expect there to be power in the shop to see if something turns on or doesn't turn on. Typically, when you go to an auction, the panel has been completely stripped and not a single piece of equipment in the building has power. That's for safety concerns. Obviously, they can't have somebody walking in and flipping on a lathe or a bandsaw that just came in off the street to look at the auction. It would be a liability nightmare. Sometimes you get lucky and there is power and you can, quickly, when no one's looking, flip something on and turn it off and make sure it works. Or, you can find someone there that has the information. But for the most part, always assume that what you're buying is sight unseen and it's a risk. People always get on me about the crazy deals that I've gotten and the money that I've saved at auctions, but you have to understand that that money is a gamble every single time. I bought my saw stop at an auction for $900. That's a 5 horsepower 3-phase saw. It probably should have been around $5,000, but I bought it completely sight unseen. When I got it, there was no way to plug it in and no way to know, and it was all the way in Massachusetts. So I drove 4.5 hours there, picked it up, and I drove 4.5 hours home and unloaded it before I even had any idea if it was going to turn on. But for $900, I felt like it was worth the risk, and it was. I use it all the time, and it's great. Auctions can be a lot of fun. You can get insane deals, and when you're someone like me who's sort of just starting out and you have a lot of overhead, but you have the, let's call it desire to have a lot of tools and stuff to make more things and expand your business, you can save a ton of money. I usually am at like pennies on the dollar to buy stuff, and it's awesome. Me and my friends do it together. We arrange for pickups together. But again, we all understand that, that box of drill bits you might buy for $5, they might all be dull, or the end mills that you buy might all be broken. The vise might not work, or the Bridgeport that you buy might have a crack in the casting. That's all part of it. You have to assume that the money that you're saving on, the 9 things you bought before the 10th thing offset the potential for one of them to be bad. Do as much research as you can, ask a lot of questions, understand the risks, and buying stuff at auctions can really, really be the best way to get equipment for your business or just for your home shop if you're passionate about it. All right, that about does it for this video. I hope this information was helpful. I get a ton of questions on Instagram about buying stuff from auctions. So I just thought it would be good to kind of push this out into the open and, you know, let people know that me, just as a sole operator of this place, I am successful in buying from auctions all the time. I'm going to put some links to some of the auction houses that I use down below. Again, understand the risks. Do not, you know, just go on there and start bidding on stuff all over the country and you know, email me and tell me that you don't know what you're going to do. Read the fine print, talk to people, ask questions. If you know anybody else that's ever bought from an auction, maybe ask them if you can participate in the next one with them. You know, learn their sort of tactics. Understand it can be really fun, but also it can be dangerous on your wallet, and it's really easy to get auction blind and just start bidding and bidding and bidding because you want something, but take your time. Don't spend money that you don't have, ever. I hope you enjoyed it. Ask questions down below if you have them. Follow me on Instagram if you want to see the stuff that I get at auctions, at Make Everything Shop. If you want to learn more about this kind of stuff, if you want to maybe follow along when I bid at the next auction, let me know down below and I'll set that up so that, you know, the next time I'm bidding, I can share sort of what I go through in the process and, you know, the way that I'm thinking about it. And yeah, I hope you like this. Share the video if it was helpful to you and you think it'll help someone else. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content. Thanks. See you on the next one.